And now, marine weather around Alaska.
And for the marine segment, we'll start with tonight's forecast. Next low center moving in and bringing rain with this front into all the western interior this evening, spreading eastward later tonight into the central part of the state, all the way down across the Kenai Peninsula, spreading into Kodiak Island and extending back off the coast here, becoming more showery as winds turn more west here for the Pribilofs, and the same thing, showers gradually diminishing over the Aleutians, and some showers up over the southeast coast. Then tomorrow, that low center kind of splits in two here and moves into the interior with another system developing there near the Barren Islands, and that's going to produce rain across all of south central Alaska into the North Gulf Coast and eventually over the northern panhandle here. A few scattered showers down to the south there over the southern panhandle. Gusty north winds, Chukchi Sea and through the Bering Strait into the Yukon Delta coast there, slowly diminishing in the afternoon. Some higher pressure out here ahead of the next system coming out of the Russian Far East that on Monday pushes a front into the Bering Strait with increasing wind and rain in that area, western Seward Peninsula, with rain coming to the coast of the Yukon Delta in the afternoon. Dry mostly for the central eastern Aleutians. Here's some sunshine as high pressure builds into the southwest interior, up into the southern Kuskokwim Valley, Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, and diminishing showers with maybe some afternoon clearing south central Alaska. But this low complex here tracks eastward, and that'll put rain and showers from the central interior, Denali Park area up across the Tanana Valley to the eastern Arctic coast. And this system takes a track more to the east-southeast there, and that'll spread a better chance of rain into the southern panhandle. Coastal water forecast for the south coast, west-northwest winds 15 to 20 knots, southwest to southeast winds on the central coast at about 15 knots, and then east 10 to 15 for the north coast. Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, southeast winds at 15 knots, Stevens Passage, south at 10, northwest at 10 for Clarence Strait. Those become south for Clarence Strait on Monday, but only at 10 knots. Central northern interchannels, southeast at 15. South coast, south winds 15 to 20 knots, 7 to 8 foot seas there. Southeast at 20 here with 8 foot seas for the central coast. To the north coast, east winds 20 to 25 knots. Prince William Sound, Sunday, southeast winds 15 knots. And for the North Gulf Coast, south winds 15 to 20 knots. Small craft advisories for the Barren Islands and Kamishak Bay, where winds will be out of the south at 25 knots. Cook Inlet, south winds 20 knots. And then on Monday, Cook Inlet, light variable winds at 10 knots with seas down there pretty good. Northwest winds 25 knots for Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, the seas at about 5 feet. And the North Gulf Coast here, northeast winds 20 to 25 knots with 6 to 8 foot seas. Prince William Sound, north at 15. Kodiak Island, southwest winds 25 to 30 knots for the day Sunday with seas around 10 feet. Small craft advisories also out here for the Alaska Peninsula. West-southwest 25 to 30 knots, seas as high as 12 feet. In Bristol Bay, southwest 30 knots, seas 9 feet. Kodiak Island on Monday, west-northwest 20 to 25 knots. Alaska Peninsula, west-northwest 15 to 20 knots. In Bristol Bay, west winds 20 knots with 7 foot seas. Eastern Aleutians tomorrow, west winds 20 to 25 knots. Adak and Atka, west to 20. Western Aleutians, southwest winds 20 knots with 8 to 12 foot seas. And then for Monday, small craft advisories here for the Western Aleutians, southwest winds 25 knots, seas around 8 feet. Adak and Atka, southwest to 20, seas 5 feet. In the Fox Islands, west-southwest 15 to 20 knots with 4 to 6 foot seas. And for the southwest coast, Sunday, small craft advisories, west winds 25 to 30 knots, west to 20 for the Pribilofs, northwest 25 with 12 foot seas, St. Matthew Island, and small craft advisories for St. Lawrence Island and Norton Sound, where winds will be west-northwest at 25 knots. Then on Monday, Norton Sound winds northwest down to 10 knots now, 20 knots from the south, St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta coast, South and Nunivak Island, westerlies at 20, southwest 20 for St. Paul and St. George, but southwest 30 knots for St. Matthew Island. And for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, east winds 30 knots with 7 foot seas tomorrow, coming down to about 25 out of the east for the central coast with 5 foot seas, western Arctic coast, east at 20, small craft advisories to gale force winds here for the Chukchi Sea from varying directions. And for the next day, coming down considerably there, 10 to 20 knots from the south-southeast for the Chukchi Sea, west 20 for the western Arctic coast, small craft advisories for the central and eastern coast for west winds 20 to 25 knots.